will show the world what the ultimate bioweapon looks like when I let loose Mike the Birdman and the rest of the TWIG crew upon Chris Redfield and his unnervingly hot little sister. Oh. Oh, yes. Right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak! I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
What's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as we trek into the wonderful season of fall. It is lovely here in southern Ontario, which is where I am found, but I'm not alone as I go through the fall leaves. I'm joined by my brother, my compatriot, my best friend in the lovely city of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Alex, the producer.
So, guys, yes, we are back here on yet another episode of ThisWeekInGeek.net. Just want to put out a programming note right off the front of the show. So, next week is Canadian Thanksgiving. So, that is Monday, October 14th. We will not be having a regular news show that day. We will have some sort of programming that day, be it a review show or some other piece of material. Just, me and Alex want to hang out and do Turkey Day with our families. So that being said, just be aware of that programming note. But as we most often do, we typically talk about the week that we have had in each other's lives. And we always talk about what we've currently been playing on video game consoles. And for me, this week, I went to the movies. And I've actually went to the movies a lot in the last couple of weeks. This week I went to the movies twice. And the one movie I didn't even intend to see, I just happened to be looking at my movie app at the right time. On Tuesday night, Shudder Canada and Cineplex had put on a special screening of the latest VHS movie. This one was called VHS Beyond. And if you don't know what the VHS movies are, they're typically like these little mini horror movies that are like 15, 20 minutes. There's like usually 4 to 5 per movie. And they're held together via some loose narrative or some kind of loose vignette style. And VHS Beyond was, it was okay. It wasn't as fun to me as 1985 was. 85 was probably my favorite. And then maybe VHS 99 or 94, I think were my other two. My least favorite being VHS Viral. It's probably my least favorite one. So I went to go see that with Liam on Cheap Day here in Guelph. And then me and Liam experienced Beige. What is Beige? Beige is the Klingon word for pain. We saw Joker 2, and I can't even begin to pronounce what the fuck that movie's called. Folie
à Deux.
Yeah, Folie à Deux. So I knew it was a musical going in. Knew this. I'm thinking, you know what? I actually really, really like musicals. So, okay, cool. The first Joker movie, I was lukewarm on. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I was one of those people that was kind of an alarmist when seeing it. Could the more questionable portions of our population take this to be a movie to
and we know the profiling I went through going to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so legitimately, I was profiled like stereotypically what you would think when you hear like, oh, they're profiling people going into. I had to experience that for the first one, And after watching it, I was like, it's a 7 out of 10. Like, it wasn't great. Like, it had a couple really good moments, and it had an interesting message that it was trying to tell. And then this one was coming out, and I was like, I'm going to go see this. And then I started hearing rumblings that it wasn't good. And when I heard it was a musical, I canceled my trip real quick. I was like, no.
Yeah, so I saw this on Tuesday. Me and Liam went to the early evening show. We saw it at the 7 p.m. show, which typically you'd think should be pretty full up. But
Yeah, on the cheap Tuesday, usually it is.
yeah, so we went on that day and there's maybe 20 of us. So we go in there and the first 10 minutes of this opens like a Looney Tunes cartoon and it's actually really well done. I'm thinking, all right, maybe this isn't so bad. And then the movie happens and keeps happening. And I'll tell you this, it's fucking boring. It's really boring. And then they start the singing, and some of the songs are actually kind of okay. There are 3 songs I can recall that I liked, 2 for sure, 1 I'm kind of mid on. There's one where he's singing in a lunchroom, where he's kind of talking about All My Life, is I think the name of the song. There's another one where him and Harley are escaping from Arkham. They get caught. And you really get to hear Gaga sing, which is, fine. Again, she's a pretty good part of this movie, but I think they really underused her considering she really can belt it out. And it's not like Joaquin Phoenix can't either. Mr. Walk the line, and, he is a talented singer in his own right. But the entirety of this movie, Alex, could be summed up as Joker 2, smoking and singing, literally in that order of priority.
Well,
It's like literally every single scene. If it doesn't have somebody smoking, it soon will.
didn't you initially say, like, this movie is just smoking and fucking, and that's all it is?
Okay, there is one sex scene and you see nothing, which is fine, but
or sorry, it was smoking and then fucking nothing.
Yeah, it was so bad. So the movie ends on a rather down note. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Oh, we can totally spoil it because nobody is watching this movie.
Yeah, it's going to bomb hard.
It ends with I won't spoil it entirely, but it ends with people throwing up their hands, going, "Really?"
Yeah, that's it. So it ends on an incredibly down note, which are like obviously the character of Arthur Fleck, quote unquote, gets what he fucking deserves. And it's kind of sad in that own way, but I really feel like this is director Todd Phillips, the guy who directed The Hangover, the first Joker. He was forced into making this movie more or less. And I think this is his way of saying to Hollywood, if you force me in the projects, you're going to get a subversive project. You're not making your money. I leaned over to Liam when we were watching this and I said, "Hey Liam, do you want to see what $100 million looks like when you set it on fire? I present to you Joker 2." Now,
he said in an interview for the first movie that he did it because he's like, we can't make comedies anymore because of woke culture. And I went, oh, this is going to tip this movie into a certain direction.
yeah.
And it did, and that was sort of what we expected. It wasn't that bad. And then it feels like this movie is his response saying, guess what, to the people that hero worshipped him, the joke's on you, you're all fucking losers for real.
Yeah, and then so the best part of the evening didn't happen in the movie theater. So I'm exiting in my wheelchair with Liam and we're going into the lobby and there's a crowd of about 10 people, maybe a little bit more. And I start giving a very loud review. I call Blair, who's my wife, on the phone, and I'm giving a rather enthusiastic review of this, as you can tell. And the girls behind the counter at Cineplex had to leave their station to walk behind the counter to go into the office and laugh hysterically. So I go up to visit the counter because I was going to grab a drink on the way out. And they're like, oh my God, like you really felt like that? I'm like, yeah. And I was pulling punches. So they start giggling. And the theater owner comes out holding his head in shame. And he's like, and I quote, "I'm so sorry for our part in this." and the girls just start laughing again, and they're like, "Well, thank you for saving us money and time to go see this movie."
Well,
So,
it's different now than it used to be. When I had a friend that was a projectionist at the cinema, or sorry, at the Silver City before that closed, and I saw uh X-Men Origins Wolverine
mhm.
about 3 or 4 days before anybody else did, because they did the projectionist screening. Because they used to, before digital, they would have to do that. They'd splice it all together because it would come in the reels, and then they would have the manager and then the projectionist, and then because there's usually two projectionists, or back then there were for a multiplex, where they walk between the screens to make sure they're all working, and they were allowed to bring one extra person with them, and you'd go to like at like midnight or 1 in the morning, and you'd go to like 3 or 4, and you'd have to watch each film beforehand. So you'd go to see that, and they would know whether a movie was going to be good or bad sometimes before the reviews went out, because let's say the movie was premiering on a Friday. This is before they used to do Thursday previews. You'd watch it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then the reviews came out in the Wednesday or Thursday paper, something like that. So we saw that the movie ended, and the manager went, "Oh, this is going to be fucking bad." And I was like, "This doesn't look that good. This isn't great." And they're like, "Yeah, this is bad. This is going to be bad for us." Now, with it all being on a digital cinema package where it comes, on a hard drive, they don't get to watch it before it airs. So they're probably genuinely hadn't seen it yet. So they see you and they hear you and they're like, "Oh no."
I saw that movie with the Screw Attack guys. I can't remember what the name of the restaurant was, but it was like American Movie Grill or something like that. And it was during one of the worst thunderstorms I'd ever been through. Like, it was literally a Texas thunderstorm. And I remember I was out in the rain with Corey and Destin, and I want to say Jose at the time. And I'm thinking, do you guys get storms like this all the time? Like, oh yeah, Birdman, this is nothing. I'm like, holy shit! Sounded like the apocalypse was right outside, because it was raining, it was lightning, it was really intense. So yeah, that was Thursday night, and then yesterday, as of this recording, me and Liam, we found out they were showing the original Gundam movies in Japanese with like English subtitles. So we went to go see the first Gundam movie. I'd never seen it. This is the one with the original RX-78, Char, Amaru Ray, and then we ran into my friend Trey, who I play Pokemon cards with and D&D with, and we saw this Gundam movie. Really enjoyed it. I've never seen an anime movie from the 1970s really before. Maybe I've seen one, but I don't think I've seen many, if any at all, before this. Had a really good time. Was really surprised how dark it was.
Well, in the 70s anime was still in your head that you're thinking Speed Racer from the 60s and all that, but like the only ones that I would say are like popular with the mainstream
Mhm.
would be the stuff that like like the Loop and the Third stuff that uh Miyazaki worked on, and that like Castle was Cagliostro or something. Like some of the Loop and the Third movies have come, but they weren't popular here yet. Like Gundam wasn't popular here, remember, until like the 90s.
Mhm.
So it is odd to see it on a big screen. It must have, because it's all hand drawn, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, like it looked really really cool. I was really impressed with like some of it, and yeah, it was a genuinely entertaining piece of anime history that I'd never seen. I mean, it's definitely something I maybe want to follow, because I know the original Universal Century timeline is quite extensive and spans several different series. So I'm
you can watch
interested.
it, because I mean, people say, "Oh, watch it in the order it came out," but you could just watch the Origin stuff, which was the more modern series that came out. My old roommate had all the books that were coming out, all the hardcovers, and they made that to a bunch of OVA animation stuff, where it's everything that leads into what happened in the first movie and slash episode of the show.
Yeah.
So you get to hear the whole backup. So like in some ways, I'd say just start with that, because it's modern animated, good voice acting in English, and then you can go, okay, now I can have the basis for where everything is, because that way you don't have to like watch it and then figure out how the order of all these shows piece together. You could just start with the origin.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a really good time seeing that. And then Next week, we're going to go see Nightmare on Elm Street, which should be a lot of fun. They're showing that on the big screen. And I think we're going to go see Texas Chainsaw. The 50th anniversary is this week. It's either 50 or 40. It's one of the others. We're going to go see that on Thursday
Chainsaw will
night.
be 50th, I think.
I think so. So yeah, we're going to go see that. That should be a lot of fun. And then I guess what have you been up to? And then we'll talk about what games we have been playing, because there's been a lot.
I was going to go to the movies and then went no when I saw that firebomb that was coming out.
Mhm.
I'm still like I'm looking at what's coming out in the next couple of weeks, and like I haven't seen any listings for Terrifier yet. It's supposed to be out next week.
Yeah, I'm very
So
surprised.
so if that comes out, I might be seeing that, or I'll try to go see that. I've got a few friends here that might want to see it if I can't, if we couldn't make it out together to see it. Same with Smile 2. I do want to see that, but I got to watch the first one. So I'm going to watch that at home. Beyond that, I have been mostly catching up on stuff that I was sent for review. So I've been playing some indie RPGs on the PC and PS5. I've been watching some Hong Kong movies that we'll have reviews out for in the next little bit. And I've also... that's pretty much it. Mostly because I was like, I've got so much media to catch up on. I've got probably enough. I've got like 10 reviews in the works at this point, and I do plan on seeing some other movies. But like, if you noticed, outside of the re-releases that they've been doing of these classic movies to fill up the screens, there's not been really a lot coming out. Things have been pushed around. They're like, studios are in trouble. We saw that Lionsgate is just falling apart now, which is sad, because that's also E1 Canada. Like, our studios are dying on the vine because they're just having bad projects and bad decisions. So it's no wonder that like Deadpool and Wolverine is out on home video now, and it's still in theaters. How that never used to happen, where a big blockbuster was still in theaters when it was on home video.
Hmm. I mean, like, I know they're doing the John Wick Ballerina, which comes out, and I want to say next year.
It's next summer. It's like June.
Yeah, yeah. So that looks really cool. I saw the preview for that in front of Joker 2. I'm thinking, all right, that's really cool. I'm glad I waited to see the trailer on the big screen, which is kind of neat. And when it comes,
It also shows off that Anna de Armas is tiny.
yeah,
Like, I know it's ballerina, but like, I didn't realize, because they when they film her in movies, depending on the camera angle, she just looks like a normal person. She's legitimately a very small person, like very thin, very tiny. I'm like, oh, it is actually perfect casting.
trying to think of what else. As for me, yeah, I've got a lot of reviews on the go. I just got a couple of games in this week. I just got the new NHL 25. I'm gonna have a review for the Castlevania collection. I've been sitting on that review for a little while because I wanted to release it in October, because Dracula, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I am also sitting on a review for Jackbox because Thanksgiving is coming up. So hey, if you actually no, this is a game you don't want to play with your family. So this is more of a friends thing. Let me tell you.
Depends. I mean, it depends on your family. We'll try not to judge.
Yeah, exactly. If so, you've got a either really cool family or a really weird one. Also got a bunch of Transformer stuff that I'm working on. But in this show, to celebrate the release of Transformers 1 overseas, I'm going to take a look at a roundup of the press package that Hasbro sent over to me, and then I'll be having some more reviews as the month goes on, because I got like Fortress Maximus, which is the latest reissue from Titan's Return. I also got the Transformers G.I. Joe collaboration for this year, which is Sergeant Slaughter's Triple T and Autobot Cup. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then I also have the Target exclusive pack, which I think you can find in GameStop up here. I'm almost positive of it, which has the Prime Universe Cliff Jumper, which is rather cool. You also get
cool.
you also get a redeco of Tarantulas. You get another character who is exclusive to the Japanese Headmaster series, who is a retool of think it's Combiner Wars or Titans Returns Mind Wipe, which is a fantastic mold. And then another redeco of Tarn, which is a fantastic figure we've seen a number of times this year. This is the Cyberverse version of him. And if you know who Tarn is from the comics, you know he's one badass motherfucker from the Decepticon Justice Division. And yeah, I've just got a lot of stuff. I also have some more RPGs to review from Renegade Game Studios, Free League Publishing. I should have some stuff from Modifius coming up. And yeah, so I've got a lot of cool stuff for us to chat about over the next couple of weeks. So be looking for those. But in this show, we'll be covering the Transformers 1 press package. What did you get, Alex, for this week's show?
I have a travel router, one that you bring to, like, let's say you're going to a hotel room and you want to connect to the public Wi-Fi, but you're afraid of
Bullshit.
but basically bullshit, spam, Russian hackers, anybody that could be spoofing and listening into you. There's a new little router from TP-Link that I received where you can even power it by like one of those USB power banks if you wanted to. It's so small it fits in the palm of your hand. The idea is that little thing connects to the public Wi-Fi and provides you with the ability to have like a VPN or firewall access of your own and block certain traffic you don't want. So, and it's fairly easy to use. So I've got that in here, and I've also got the newest RPG maker for the Nintendo Switch to check out, where you can take you can either download stuff from their server that people have made and you submit your own and make your own little games. A good way to like test out your own skills that you can then potentially use to make your own video games in the future.
Oh, that's cool. All right, cool. So we will be, excuse me, we will be looking at that later on the show. But first, we are going to take a break as we take a trip to Cybertron, and we're going to take a look at the origin story of Orion Pax and D16. This is my roundup of what I was sent for Transformers 1 from our friends over at Hasbro. We'll be back right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. We'll be back right after this.
Where's Optimus Prime?
The filthy red and blue bot? Yeah. Gives off a corroded metallic stench.
Okay, corroded, that is too far.
Okay.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something really cool we got from our friends over at Hasbro to celebrate the release of Transformers 1, which is currently in theaters and I think just opened up overseas. So please go see this movie for the love of Alpha Trion. Go see this movie, one of the funnest times I've had at the theater this year. So I'm a little bit biased, but still, Hasbro sent over a couple of samples of some of the products that you can take a look at to celebrate this release in theaters. They sent me a transforming Optimus Prime Orion Pax mask, a couple of their robot battlers, which is kind of like their version of Rock'em Sock'em robots. They also sent me the very cool and actually kind of surprising Power Flip Optimus Prime as well, and there's going to be some other products that I'll be taking a look at over the next couple of weeks from the Transformers franchise as we build up to our annual holiday gift guide. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the transforming mask. Now I've seen a couple of these. They did these for Rise of the Beasts. There was one for Bumblebee. There was one for Optimus Primal. And I've always wondered how these transforming masks work. And they're literally a mask that you can wear that also turns into a functional transformer. Is it as detailed as the Studio Series? No. Does that mean it's kind of cool for a kid? Actually, kind of, yeah. I was actually very surprised how much the engineering actually kind of works on this. And I could see this being actually kind of fun for a kid, all things considered. And I thought the sculpt on the Orion mask was actually really good, because you can actually get the spots on his chest to look like the chest of his actual Cybertronian truck mode. So he goes from mask to robot mode, and it takes you, I'm not sure how many steps, but it wasn't overly hard, and I really was pleased with how well it turned out. It does pose kind of good, looks pretty good on a shelf, and hey, it's a mask too, and with, spooky season kind of being here, hey, if you want a mask that you can literally use all year round and is still kind of a fun toy, why the hell not? Now, I did get some of the robot battlers, and these are a little bit probably not for my age range. Obviously, I'm a 40-something-year-old man who loves his Transformers, but at the same time, I do demand a little bit more from my figure. So these are very simple, like 1 or 2 step transformations, and you put them on these little, I guess battle pegs would be the way I'd describe them, and they do have a Energon-based weapon, and they can, well, beat the ever-living snot out of each other. I got Bumblebee, Elita 1, Optimus, and Megatron. I think the one I enjoyed the most was probably Elita 1. I just think she has the best sculpt of all the ones currently available. Bumblebee probably being a close second. Surprisingly, Optimus and Megatron not being my favorite, but I do like the Cybertronian tank mode on Megatron / D16. I just think he looks tremendously awesome. And if there was any highlights out of that one, it would definitely be that. However, the real star of what I got was the Transformers 1 Power Flip Optimus Prime. He does have Energon armor, he does have lights and sound, he does go from Orion Pax to Optimus Prime to kind of a super mode as well, and it's kind of cool. I was actually very surprised how good this figure was, considering it's meant for less of an articulated collector like your Studio Series and your Masterpiece. It stands a pretty good size, transforms fairly easily in the Cybertronian truck mode. But also, when you scale his legs up and down, you can move his chest up and down, and that does activate different lights and sounds. And he is distinctively different in Orion Pax to Optimus Prime, where he gets a new head, he gets a little bit taller, his chest gets a little bit bigger, and he's overall a different vehicle. And then when he gets his Energon armor, it flips around. He also has a sword, he's got his signature Energon axe. I'm honestly very surprised with this figure. It's not too often I find figures in the more, I'll say, play-friendly style that are this well done. And if there was any highlight out of the press package I got from Hasbro, I actually really recommend Power Flip Optimus Prime. Definitely the highlight figure from everything I've got, and probably one you could give to an adult collector. And they're going to have some pretty decent fun with, too. I think he displays great in any of his modes. I actually kind of prefer him in his Orion Pax mode. But again, just the fact that he does have those multiple alliterations of Optimus through his different stages of power. He does have a matrix of leadership as well. Again, I think that's pretty badass. So if you want to be as cool as Badassatron himself, or perhaps begin seeding your own legions of Decepticons, then you should definitely check out some of the figures and roleplay products that are available from Hasbro. And please, for the love of all that is Vector Sigma, please go see Transformers 1 in theaters. You will not regret it. I think you're going to have a fantastic time. There's lots of Easter eggs for fans, and I hope this is but the beginning of a new franchise for Transformers on the big screen. So until next time, this has been Mike the Birdman saying, transform and roll out.
Now is the time to stand together. No,
It's time to fight back.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek News.
All right there. Well, thank you folks for checking out that review. Once again, big thank you to our friends over at Hasbro for sending that over. Hopefully Transformers 1 does some big numbers overseas. I really want to see a sequel to this, but we'll see if it's in the proverbial cards for Optimus Prime and his friends on Cybertron. All right, so we're going to begin our first story with a trip to the world of entertainment. And this story comes courtesy of comicbook.com, but it has been reported by multiple outlets. Iconic 90s cartoon Rugrats is getting its own live-action movie. Hold on to your diapers, folks. Rugrats is ready to make a comeback. Today, a new report surfaced that confirmed Paramount is working on a live-action Rugrats movie with Jason Moore, director of Pitch Perfect. So if you are ready to reunite with Reptar, well, join the club. The report comes from Deadline, reveals that Paramount wants the movie to be a live-action and CGI hybrid. Moore is signed on to direct, and Saturday Night Live director Mikey Day has been asked to write a script with Streeter Seedle. At this point, no word has been given on the film's anticipated release, but work on Rugrats is steady behind the scenes. Of course, the live action announcement is not the first. Rugrats has been dealt back in July 2018. Paramount announced its plan to adapt the cartoon into a live action hybrid movie, and the project was slated for 2021 launch. The movie languished in development, and it was removed from Paramount's theatrical release slate in 2019. However, it seems that Rugrats has found the spark once again. There's no telling whether this adaptation will stick, but the fans are admittedly curious about the project. And hey, let's face it, if Boss Baby can do numbers at the box office, then Rugrats should be able to fend for itself just fine. Then the article goes on to explain
live action
Rugrats.
mixed, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah, like
everything that Paramount and Warner Brothers has done mixed since, I would say, since Alvin and the Chipmunks has been bad.
What are some more examples beyond that? Because there has to be more. That seems like a pretty broad brush. So while you're researching that, I will fill time.
Researching Space Jam 2.
That was a failure to launch, and I would say the biggest problem with Space Jam 2, parts of that movie were okay, and the only reason I say it's okay is because some of the animation was fine. The problem is Space Jam opened in the mid 90s, maybe the late 90s, and it felt about 20 years too late because there is, in my opinion, not that many crossover sports stars that have that huge appeal like a Michael Jordan. Sure, LeBron James, sure, he's a fantastic player, but I don't see him having the same crossover appeal as Michael Jordan. And that's just, it is what it is. But you wanted a basketball player for this movie. I guess he's about the best you're going to get since the other big famous person died a couple years ago. And I don't want to disrespect them because I can't remember their name right now. The ones that died in the helicopter crash. So
let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. It feels like the Rugrats movie, could it be entertaining? Maybe. But I don't, you would have to have the snappiest script. You would have to have the exact right people in the exact right places to carry it. I don't see it happening. Now, if you wanted to do a new Rugrats movie and it was CG, that could work.
Now, okay, you want other examples? Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers.
That I thought was fucking fantastic. That was underappreciated, I felt.
It was fine.
I think its biggest problem is they didn't believe in it enough, so it stuck to Disney Plus, but also pandemic, what do you want?
Yeah, it cost $70 million and made $600,000. So
yeah, like that's a movie I think deserves re-examination at some point.
The Woody Woodpecker movie.
I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah. Let me see here. How much did that make? Woody Woodpecker movie, 2017. It made $15 million.
See, I'm honestly surprised Disney has not gone back to its well and re-examined some of its other properties, like say Roger Rabbit. That was lightning in a bottle in the 1980s.
They can't, because even though they own a lot, they will never work with Warner again.
Especially under Zaslav. Yeah, you're right.
Not unless Warner has ownership of it. They're never going to do it. Okay. What else was there? Those ones I said. Okay. Tom and Jerry movie.
Was that no, wait, what's the one? I'm thinking of the Wile E. Coyote movie that never got released.
No,
yeah.
Tom and Jerry with Chloe Grace Moretz and a bunch of people that nobody watched.
I remember that. That was another pandemic movie. I think I saw that. I think I was in the hospital when I saw that. I'm almost positive. Yeah, I did see that under heavy morphine, but I did see that movie. Yeah, it was just kind of there. And again, like if you're going to put live action people next to cartoons, it has to be done so right. And I can't think of anything that's really done it right. I mean, I kind of admittedly like the first Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I even kind of like the first Smurf movie. But
aren't there like 4 or 5 of each of those now?
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you start pumping out so many, obviously you start getting diminishing returns on them. Yeah, like it's so, you're right. I can't think of a single one where it was the big crossover success where they wanted it to be. And this one, this ain't it. I mean, I can't think of any property that would successfully work in this format.
This is going to be like the early 90s when everybody tried to copy Roger Rabbit, and you had like Cool Spot with, wasn't it fucking Brad Pitt? And what is it? Cool Spot, and then there was like, wasn't there a California Raisins movie or something that had mixed people?
Not that I recall. I think the movie you're thinking of is Cool World, which I think is
Oh yes, sorry, yeah, you're right. Cool World, yeah.
which was a weird movie that I kind of wish they kind of revisit in some way. That's a weird kind of movie. Monkey Bone, but that was an original
Terrible.
IP.
It was
Terrible.
also terrible. So, Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah, that was another one where it was bizarre hybrid. Yeah, you're right. Just it doesn't often work, and if it does, it's so exceptionally rare. It's like, I don't know. It's like finding the first edition Hollow Charizard in the bottom of like a
Yeah.
sock drawer. It just doesn't happen. Sure, maybe once in a blue moon, but
I'm trying to think like if it would work with pretty much like, I don't know of any existing property where it would work.
I'm
Like-
thinking here.
Like Looney Tunes made sort of sense because it was wacky and weird, and the idea was when they made Space Jam, they were like, "Hey, look what it worked with Roger Rabbit," but that works because it was the whole Toontown, like the whole fantasy world in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could get away with the Max Fleischer stuff because it's like the, you know, think like Cuphead but mixed with real people.
Yeah, I could
It-
see that working.
It would work if you, but it almost has to be that retro 1920s to 1930s animation style where you can make the whole world revolving around like the moving, bobbing up and down, swelling, contorting looking at animation that they had back then. It looks odd when the characters aren't moving as much as they should.
I'm I'm sitting here thinking, I think one thing that could work, but the script would again have to be super smart. Look at the catalog of Disney. Why, like, how many Mickey Mouse things have you actually seen? You always see the ancillary characters, but how often do you actually see Mickey? Not that goddamn often.
They have like the Mickey Mouse sort of classically looking animated one. I was on their streaming network and that, but like, was it like Three Musketeers or Three Caballero? Like, what the hell was it though? They had the Three Amigos style one that was in the way back.
Yeah.
They don't really do a whole lot. You're right. It could maybe work.
Yeah, like if you had like, okay, something that could work, and you kind of take the rough idea of Epic Mickey, for example, with Mickey and his brother Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. What if they get stuck in the real world? And you could have this mostly filmed at Disneyland if you wanted to. They won't because it would cost a lot of money to shut that place down. But maybe Mickey's trying to find his way home and he can cross paths with like other Disney characters.
Like obviously the one that works the best is probably the Sonic trilogy right now.
Yeah, that's ultimately the best adaptation. But
and
even
that's video, and that's video games. Like, let's be real, they are legitimately fun movies. So it works, but it's not traditional animation. Like it's the 3D thing. So I mean, it could work. You would have an easier time, I think, with video games doing it because you could make it the whole augmented reality thing, like Tron. The argument can be made, is it so much that the digital world came to life, or have you been sucked into the digital world, sort of thing? You could maybe get along with that, but like as far as turning a classic animated property into it,
yeah,
it might weirdly enough work better with the really poorly animated stuff from back in the day. Like I know that they've made like Rocky and Bullwinkle and stuff, but that sort of style might work better. I don't know. We're not going to get like a Rocket Robin Hood stupid show or anything turned into it. Like it has to be a very large property. And I think that they've all been sort of absorbed between Warner Brothers, and Disney owns basically all of it now. Like, except for does MGM even own Tom and Jerry anymore?
I don't know who owns the IP on that. To
Oh,
be honest with
it's
you.
okay. The movie that came out, it was made by Warner, so it wasn't MGM anymore. So they must have sold the properties years and years ago. So, like, maybe some of the Don Bluth stuff, if Amblin decided to do something with it, because I think a lot of their stuff I think it was Amblin Entertainment worked with Don Bluth. Like, I could see them doing a live action mixture adaptation of like Fern Gully, or Land Before Time wouldn't work because it'd just be another Jurassic Park. But like Fern Gully or Secret of Nim, like the
That
stuff
would be really fucking cool, actually.
the,
Yeah, if you were to do that.
you know what I mean, like the stuff that's more that, or you could maybe do the Disney thing, like Disney does like their live action, but it's not really live action. It's just hyper realistic CGI. You know, they do the stupid Mufasa movie and all that.
I think.
But what about if you were yeah, maybe. What about if you just adapted a lot of the, you know how Disney does their stupid, like, here's Cinderella, but live action. What if you did a mixture of live action and animation, and you did it with like Thumbelina or was it MGM that did like Rockadoodle and all that with them?
Yeah,
You could but again, it always pulls you out. Like it's never going to feel natural unless you do the Roger Rabbit thing, where you establish the world as being a mixture of fantasy and reality, where it's completely normal. It's always going to feel awkward having people in there with it for no reason.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I want this to be something. I don't think it will be. So I guess,
because even those Garfield movies are bad too. So
yeah, which is kind of, I like the first one, but the second one's trash. But that's also not saying much.
So like, I guess you can't do Ninja Turtles because they already use like puppet suits for that. But like, I guess you could go some of the action shows. Like, would it be? It's still going to be odd. You can't. I was going to say, could you do like Biker Mice from Mars? No, you kind of have to do like either pure animation or real people, or it just doesn't feel right.
You could do it in the Mutants Mayhem style. Maybe that could work.
Maybe it'd have to be like a very little kids show, very very small kid. Like right now we've got the Paw Patrol movie that made $1 bazillion. There's 2 of them, I think, right?
Yeah.
You could do live action kids with animated dogs, and when it's for the pre-5-year-old audience, you could totally do that, and it's believable. Like, I know we had the Dora the Explorer live action movie, which was weird. It was fun.
That was it was fun, but it was weird. Actually, I think there was a Clifford movie, and it was kind of okay. I mean, it was definitely a kids movie, but it was
and the Curious George one, right?
Yeah, Paddington, maybe. Does that count?
Yes, and Paddington is perfectly fine. Again, you're aiming for like a 5-year-old audience where family members can go see it too.
Yeah, like,
so it works there. It breaks down when you're aiming for anybody over the age of like 6 or 7.
Detective Pikachu, that worked.
Yes, but you notice that they've had
video game crossover.
And they've had trouble trying to do more.
Mm-hmm.
It'll work with Pokemon. It would probably work with Digimon. It's gonna work with stuff like that. We know it's not gonna work with like DBZ or something.
No.
It has to work where the characters that are in it that are animated are not humanized.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yes, Detective Pikachu, he talks, but none of the other ones do. You know what I mean? Like, it works when they're animals. Because like, because then you start to filter into the element of like, it's like Jumanji. At that point, is that an animated movie because it's within a video game?
Yeah, I guess that's right. Man, I forgot they made multiple Jumanji movies, which again, they're fantastic. It's just, even they're kind of forgettable.
They're even taking the fact that The Rock and Kevin Hart are not the most enjoyable people to watch, and it really, some people like them, some people don't, but every other character, you know, like Jack Black and Danny DeVito and other people ended up making it worth it, right? So those are great, but like, you're running into limitations. Because like, does King Kong count? You know what I mean? Like what counts as animated? Like, are we talking like traditional animation? Or are we talking hyper realistic CGI? Because then it opens up the whole can of worms. Are the Transformers movies? Are those animated movies with people?
Yeah,
or is it CGI? I think if we're going into the realm of traditional cartoon animation, very few ever actually end up being good.
100% agree. So we're going to switch past to something a little bit more concerning, and this one is a bit of a long article, so Alex, you're going to cut me off once you feel we've gotten the gist of this. So this article comes courtesy of arstechnica.com, but I became aware of it through several other news outlets this week. And Meta smart glasses can be used to dox anyone in second, a study has found. 2 Harvard students revealed, saying it's possible to combine Meta's smart glasses with face image search technology to, quote, reveal anyone's personal details, including their name, address, and phone number just by looking at them. In a Google document, Anung Fung Nugent and Kane Ardilifio explained how they linked a pair of Meta Ray-Bans 2 to an invasive face search engine called PimEyes to help identify strangers by cross-searching their information on various people search databases. Then they use a large language model to rapidly combine all that data, making it possible to dox someone in a glance or surface information to scam someone in seconds, or other nefarious uses, such as some dude could just find some girl's home address on the train and just follow them home, said Nugent told 404 Media, which is one of my favorite outlets, by the way. This is all possible thanks to a recent progress with large language models, the student said. This synergy between LLMs and reverse face search allows fully automatic and comprehensive data extraction that was previously not possible with traditional methods alone, their Google document said. Where previously someone could spend substantial time conducting their own research of public databases to find information based on someone's image alone, this dystopian smart glasses do that job in a few seconds in their demo video. The co-creator said they altered a pair of Meta's Ray-Ban 2s to create to create eye X-ray to raise awareness of, quote, significant privacy concerns online as technology rapidly advances. They said they chose Meta's Ray-Ban 2s for their project because of the smart glasses look almost indistinguishable from regular glasses. Nugent told 404 Media that using Meta smart glasses in the creepiest way they could think of for a bad actor to try and scan faces undetected. To prevent anyone from being doxxed, the co-creators are not re-releasing the code. Nugent said on the social media site X, they did, however, outline how their disturbing behavior tech works, and shocked random strangers used as test subjects were to discover how easily identifiable they are just by accessing the smart glasses information publicly online. Nugent and Ardinafino tested the technology at a subway station on, quote, unsuspecting people in the real world, 404 Media noted. To demonstrate how the tech could be used to trick people, the students even claimed to know some of the test subjects by seemingly using information gleaned from the glasses to make resonant references and fake an acquaintance. Dozens of test subjects were identified, and the students claimed, though some results have been contested, 404 Media reported, to keep their face scanning under the radar, their students covered a light that automatically comes on when the Meta Ray-Bans 2s are recording, Ardino said on X. And then the article goes on how there are ways to opt out of all these face searching databases, which I highly recommend you seek out this article on Ars Technica, because one of the examples they give is they approached a person on this subway platform like, hey, it's me, I'm from this conference, do you remember we went back a couple months ago, we had lunch together? And that they had just enough information. They're like, oh yeah, hey, how's it going? Right? Because that's just enough to bullshit someone into thinking, oh shit, I forgot their name, I'm going to be socially awkward to keep this conversation going.
For like full-on social engineering.
Yeah, that is fucking flat out terrifying. Yep. How much information for you is available out there. And I have had problems with people in the past, and but I also live a very public life on Twitter and on Instagram. But in the last couple of years, I've been very mindful of posting where I live or any publicly available information. I've changed a lot of how I do quote unquote business since I moved here into the city of Guelph. But considering I'm such a prolific volunteer and community member, I'm not hard to find. But when you think about the implications for this technology to be used on someone in public office. Like, for example, just to get political for just a moment, and I'm not going to be referring to US politics. I'm actually going to be using an example that happened here locally. We had a rather contentious municipal election here in Guelph a couple of years ago. And one of the candidates got real fucking petty. And they were doxing people, if I remember correctly. That's why I'm not mentioning specific names here right now. But if someone wanted to identify someone's property or something like that, or direct people to do something bad, they could do that. And just having these glasses, you could do that. And to think, like, the only thing stopping these glasses from being identified as smart glasses is a little red light. You take a little piece of glue and you just daub it in the lens hole, and there's your problem gone. You put a little piece of tape over it. Like, do you remember those fucking Snapchat glasses? Those were not that hard to alter either. Or I think, if I remember right, and don't quote me on this exact part, but I remember when Pat, the NES punk, would record his Flea Market Madness videos, I think he was using glasses to record some of the footage to show what was at the kind of swap meet. And, those are pretty obvious things, but that's a good example of filming yourself doing something every day. Like, I see people wear those glasses when they go out on bike trails, but you could also film flea market videos. You could do it going to a hockey game, for example, any number of legitimate uses. But now that we have smart tech and that these Meta Ray-Ban glasses are seemingly, from what I'm gathering from this article, connected to the internet via some kind of smart device, or they're Wi-Fi capable at the very least. Think about the terrible, horrible things if someone was a creep. Like they mentioned, someone following a girl home, someone falling out where their not so favorite politician lives, or maybe there's somebody at work they don't like. This is fucking terrifying. And you think about, like, how many cameras are in our local cities right now, how many times you pass by a red light camera. I know here in the city of Guelph, we're currently talking about installing security cameras downtown to, quote unquote, enhance public safety. And on one level, I don't disagree with that, because we do have an issue downtown currently. And for the most part, it's been pretty okay. I don't hear much because I hang out downtown a lot. But the idea of face scanning technology, and you and I, Alex, have covered stories where sometimes they return false positives. I remember one story we covered a couple of years ago where Juggalo makeup fools it.
Juggalo makeup fools it, and the issue had been it was not designed to properly capture people with dark complexions.
Yeah, so it was
and not just people like, oh, black. No, it's anybody that was not of, like, East Asian or Caucasian descent. Anybody who had, like, anything darker than a tan, like a white person tan, it would not pick up properly, because a lot of the software models were designed in either China or based around data for European networks. And it's basically white people and Chinese people, or people of Chinese descent, that it could pick up. And anybody that was, like, African or Mediterranean or Pacific Islander, it would give either false positives or wouldn't even recognize.
Yeah. So again, this is one of those huge things. So like I said, folks, I'm going to invite you to find this article on Ars Technica, and they do give you links on how to go to these publicly searchable databases to opt out of all this information. And while I've got your ear for the last 40 minutes of this podcast, I'm seeing something arise now on Meta, aka Facebook, and I'm seeing it a lot amongst older people. And this is just a friendly public service announcement. If you post on your public Facebook profile saying, I hereby deauthorize you the use of using my information,
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It doesn't work. And let me tell you why, folks, in the most simplest of terms that you can understand. I'm not going to insult you, because that's not the point here. The point is, you have agreed to these terms of service. Every time you log on to that website and you start posting, hey, here's my cat picture, or here's a picture of my daughter's graduation, or whatever have you. If you're posting, you have agreed to these terms of service. Each and every time you interact with this platform, you agree to these terms of service. Now, if you don't agree to these terms of service, you can delete your account. You can request your information be deleted, and there's that, and you're done with it.
The best way to describe it is you cannot use somebody else's service under your own terms at all.
Exactly.
You have no legal right to revoke individual things based on your choice and still use their service.
Yeah. Now, there is an argument to be made that if you wanted to fight this, maybe you could lawyer up. But let me ask you, do you think you're going to take on Elon Musk? Do you think now that guy has a fetish for getting sued, but do you think you're going to take on the Zuck and win? I assure you, unless you have major money backing you that would power most sports teams' budgets for the year, no. So please, if you see your grandparents, your parents, your brother, your sister, your wife, your cousin, former's caddy's roommate's brother from college, if you see them posting this, just say, look, stop, don't. If you're on here like me, enjoy the ride.
Best way to describe it is because ignorance of the law is not protection from the law, and that works both ways. That means that you can't just go, well, I said it's this way, and that's my rights, and I heard from somebody. If I say this, that's not the actual law.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's astounding how often I see this pop up.
People on YouTube that try to upload like full television episodes and then put down in the comments, I do not own this, Copyright Act, blah, blah, blah. It's fair use. That's not how fair use works. It's also declaring that you don't own something doesn't change anything.
Yeah, you've still technically stolen it. So what do you want?
Like, it doesn't provide any form of defense whatsoever. Yeah. In fact, it can be used against you because they can bring it up in court and say, well, you knew it wasn't yours.
Yeah, exactly. It's just guys, just don't. So long story short, make sure you know.
Don't be ignorant. Don't go through life ignorant. What's the quote from Animal House? Was it going through life fat and stupid?
Fat, drunk, and stupid
is no way to go through life or something. Pick two or something. So whatever. But still, it's like, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, and that's basically take it with a grain of salt. But don't think that knowing half truths and being ignorant is going to protect you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you truly want to get out from under the thumb of Big Brother, take that cell phone, go dunk it in a glass of water, live off the grid, delete all social media, but opt out of everything first, live in the bush, and generate your own power.
Or at the very least, if you want to protect your privacy, maybe pick up one of those travel routers that I was talking about in the show this week.
See, there you go.
Get yourself, understand how basic VPNs work. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to protect at least at the first layer. You're not going to be targeted as quite as easily. I'm not saying go paranoid and go completely off the grid, but you know what? Don't be ignorant. Protect yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Be smart. Ignorance is the worst thing. Ignorance is the worst trait you can have. But to quote one of my favorite properties as a child, and knowing is half the battle. So anyway, guys, we're going to take a break here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. And well, speaking of that travel router, I think now's the perfect time. So we will be back right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net with the weird news that happened around the planet this past week. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. Now, let's check out some cool tech.
It's been a little while since we've reviewed something from our friends over at TP-Link, and they sent over the TL-WR1502X. Yes, they still have those weird long naming schemes, but what this is a Wi-Fi router that is specifically made for travel. It's pocketable. It can run off of the power supply that they give you, or be powered by power delivery via USB. So you could have like a power bank charger that you have plugged into multiple devices to charge your phones and also be running off of that because it runs on such low power. I believe it's 12 volts, 1.5 amp. So you can run for quite some time off of some of the larger power banks if you needed to. But the idea behind these devices are if you need to go somewhere like a hotel or somewhere where there's a public Wi-Fi, but you want to protect yourself a little bit, by having, some sort of firewall protection or allowing for things like private VPNs and so on and so forth. Some of it can get a little complicated for the general user, but just know that it's generally better to use something like this as sort of a buffer between you and the direct connection that you would receive if you're connecting your laptop or your phone or other such devices to a public Wi-Fi at a hotel or at a conference center or just anywhere on the go where you're out in public. That you have a little bit more protection from things like phishing attacks and hackers and just keyloggers, all that stuff that is out there that a lot of people don't consider when they go on traveling. Now, this isn't the first device in this class. They've been out now for quite some time. It used to be a hobbyist thing where you had to sort of make your own. And then in the last 7-10 years or so, they've become more popular and more specifically available to the general public. And this is the first time I've checked one out that is completely pocketable and quite small. Like it could fit in the palm of your hand. So it's useful. It's not going to have all of the bells and whistles that you'd see on some of the ones that have multi-ports and everything because they're meant for home where they're more stationary. What you end up getting here is a 1 gigabit Ethernet port for the WAN connection. If you have, wherever you're staying has a wired connection that you can use, and then it has one LAN gigabit that you can use that you could then, if you wanted to, if we're going to be stationary somewhere. Let's say you were going with the people from your office or somewhere where you'd have the need for multiple Ethernet hookups in a public space. You could then just get a unmanaged, 5-port, really small pocketable switch and plug that in, and it can handle all of it too. But if you're looking for just one dedicated connection, you've got that covered there, and it even comes with an Ethernet cable for that. And then it is a Wi-Fi 6 travel router. So it does do dual band 2.4 and 5 gigabit or gigahertz, per second. Beyond that, it has all the security features that you'd want to have out there. So it's not really, you don't need to go over too much. SPI firewall, access control. You can do IP and MAC address binding, application layer gateways, all that stuff. Now, what's interesting here is there's been ones out there that are Wi-Fi 6, but they've always been bigger. So this is one of the more compact ones. You can get over gigabit Ethernet over the Wi-Fi 6 transceiver in this. You might struggle to get that if you're connecting more than one device, but you're going to be generally in the same room with this. So throughput shouldn't be an issue and connectivity shouldn't be an issue, but it does have that 2.4 gigahertz available for somebody that wants to have, maybe more range. But again, that's not necessarily going to be required for something in this class. It does have a USB 2 port in the back that you can use to connect a USB stick or other devices to allow file sharing between your devices in a secure manner. There's management tools you can log into via the web interface, and it handles pretty much like any other router out there. But one cool feature is this does allow for cellular internet sharing. It doesn't have a spot for a SIM card in it itself. The idea with this is you would take a already owned or already rented from wherever you are. Like if you're going on vacation, a lot of times you can rent for a nominal fee a cellular wireless modem that you can take as your own personal hotspot. So you don't have to either switch your SIM card out in your phone to get internet access. You can get just a Wi-Fi hotspot in the country that you're in, wherever you go. So you'd have something like that, or you could have one yourself if you have one locally. And what it will allow you to do is there's a switch on the side of this device that you can switch different modes to, like gateway modes, and you can switch it to the cellular modem mode. And what that'll do is that can connect to that cellular modem, and then it will bridge that out to whatever device you have. So you have that mode, and that would allow you to, like, you could even, like, if you had a backpack or something, if you've got a battery backup on this, or a little battery pack, like a phone charged data bank, or like a charger bank. Let's say you got like a 10,000 milliamp, whatever it is. You got a big honking, battery pack. You could then connect that to this, and then connect that to your Wi-Fi hotspot, your cellular hotspot, and put this in a backpack because it uses such low power it wouldn't even really heat up that much. Put it in your backpack, walk around, and you could have the internet broadcasting privately from that cellular network to, let's say you're hiking with your family. You could have everybody connected to it while you're on the go and not have to worry about incurring other data fees or roaming fees, or if there even is the ability to connect your devices in whatever area you're in if you're not within your cellular network range usually. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. It's not going to be one that you would use. Like, I would not suggest like, hey, get this as your only form of network connectivity if it's for your home. It's obviously meant to be a travel because it just has the one port. I mean, you could, if you wanted to be somebody who just had, the ability to just take the home modem on the go, or home router on the go, you could. So like I said, you could get a, if you have a small apartment, or like if it's for like a dorm room or something, you could get yourself an unmanaged gigabit switch, have that sort of be the stationary thing that you leave in your home wherever you would normally have this hooked up, and then have this as your main router. And you could just have it so that, hey, okay, I'm on the go now. I'm going to go on a bike ride, or I'm going to go to a conference, or I'm going somewhere. You could then just unplug that, grab the travel router, pop it in your backpack, and take it with you. You could do that. Or again, if it's for a dorm room or something, I could see this being a compact solution for you, because in general, when you're connecting, and if you're in a dorm room or you're at a school or something, you're going to be connecting to their semi-private intranet Wi-Fi solution. You might not even have the ability to have a wired connection wherever you're staying. If it's student housing or something, you could then use this as an extra layer of your own firewall. Generally, they're pretty good at the universities and colleges, but it is something you could use if you wanted to bridge out your connection within your own devices within your area. So lots of versatility here. It's something that you might want to consider for a gift for somebody who's the techie in your household who does go and travel. In my case, like my brother does work trips that he has to go on sometimes, or when he goes on vacation with his wife and they travel to hotels. It's something that, he's always been concerned with security wise. It'd be the kind of thing you could give to somebody like that, and it's not going to break the bank. It's going to be reasonable. Pricing is going to vary depending on the country you're in. I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out if you're interested. It is neat that they are finally coming out with these devices in a very small, power efficient class that we hadn't really seen before, but with all the bells and whistles and the speed that you'd hope to get from a full-fledged router. I would say it's worth checking out the TL-WR1502X.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. And well, it's time to talk about the strange and unusual things that happened around the big blue marble this past week. We're going to start things off that Alex was able to find for us. This comes courtesy of screenshot-media.com. Man 81 sentenced to 6 months in prison for trying to create giant hybrid species of wild sheep. An 81-year-old rancher from Montana, U.S. recently caught the attention quite literally of everyone after it was revealed he spent the past decade harvesting parts from protected wildlife to create a giant hybrid species of wild sheep. But it doesn't stop there. He then planned selling across the country for a premium price. Arthur Schwabach has now been sentenced to 6 months in federal prison for his Shaun of the Sheep shenanigans. According to the New York Times, Sherburth illegally used tissue from a Marco Polo Argali sheep from Central Asia and the testicles of a bighorn sheep native to the Rocky Mountains to make large hybrids of sheep that he could sell at high prices to shooting preserves. The scheme allegedly began in 2013, shortly after a Montana livestock worker returned to the U.S. from Kyrgyzstan and delivered tissue from the Marco Polo Argyle sheep to Sherbrooke. Prosecutors later explained that for nearly a decade, up until 2021, Sherbrooke illegally used this tissue, which was banned in Montana, to create the new mammoth species. The Associated Press also revealed that part of the Schwabach's motivation for creating this hybrid sheep was so that he could sell the sheep at an exorbitant price to captive trophy hunters in Texas and Minnesota. The scheme was discovered when authorities, after they learned that he was using forged veterinary inspection certificates to move sheep in and out of Montana. The judge allocated Schwabach's case explained how it was extremely difficult to come up with a sentence for the defendant. U.S. District Court Judge Brian Moore stated that he weighed Schwabach's age and clean criminal record, while also mentioning the need to impose a sentence that would deter any anyone else from trying to, quote, change the genetic makeup of the creatures on Earth. Speaking to the judge in the court, the 81-year-old announced, I will have to work the rest of my life to repair everything I've done. Indeed, amplifying this client's emotions, Sherbrooke's attorney, Jason Holden, noticed how deciding to clone the giant Marco Polo sheep had ruined his client's life, reputation, and family. I think this has broken him. Holden continued. Some users on social media definitely felt as the sentencing was unfair, and indeed questioned whether or not Sherbrooke had done was even a legitimate crime. That being said, the fact that Sherbrooke's primary motivation for the experiment was concerning captive trophy hunting understandably doesn't go down too well with some there's a term I haven't heard in forever, netizens. Either way, it's fair to say Sherbrooke has definitely made his mark on the livestock world, although 1 second to remember the first ever cloned sheep, Dolly, may she rest in peace. I could see this being a problem, and here's why. If you create this giant species of sheep, and let's say it gets out into the wild, I'm not saying this is like a Jurassic Park thing, but I kind of am. You're upsetting nature. You don't know how this giant sheep is going to integrate with the local wildlife species. Is it going to create genetic anomalies down the line? Now, obviously, we've been creating hybrids and genetic experimentations. Like, look at dogs. Like, I know there's a certain species of dog. I think it's like a French bulldog or something. They've bred them to be, well, cute and cuddly, but kind of weird. So they have health problems down the road.
All the micro dog breeds are generally health issues, right?
Yeah.
Or what was it? The cat, that one type of cat where it has the scrunchy nose.
Mm-hmm.
They have breathing problems because respiratory issues because their nose has been genetically shortened.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean,
pugs are like that. The pugs, I read an article just talking about how the reason their eyes sort of bug out in that is because their cranium space has been shrunk over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So pugs are cute and have the buggy eyes, but they have health issues because of selective breeding.
Yeah, so this is a species, well, I think is interesting on the surface. Now, the fact that he's doing it for trophy hunting, not so cool. If it was done to increase the food supply, maybe there's an argument to be held there.
Or to increase clothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like getting wool and everything. Like there are reasons that you would want to work with governments and people to selectively breed animals, especially ones in this case where it's like sustainable resources. It's like, okay, is it cheaper and better on the environment? Because you got to factor in like, is their poop going to be bad for the environment? Like, is it better to breed them to be bigger so that you can get more wool to then make sustainable clothing, or would it be better served to not use them and use plant-based fibers instead? You know what I mean? Like there are things you have to do. You can't just, this isn't 1850s. We're not doing willy-nilly selective breeding anymore.
Yeah, and like it's weird that 6 months seems like a rather light sentence considering what this stands for.
He didn't make a pig sheep or something unholy.
Yeah, like he did not make man bear pig, to be fair.
Yes, it wasn't like squealing and saying don't shave me in human words as he was doing it. You know what I mean? Like he was
don't let me live.
It's like God wants me to die. This isn't a case of like he's breeding it to be the most dangerous game and it's just a human with antlers. It's like, oh no, what have you done? This isn't one of those cases.
But yeah, like just the fact that they caught him kind of surprises, because if they caught this guy, guarantee someone else out there is doing something like this. Guarantee it. If not with sheep, pigs for sure.
There's going to be pictures of like, this already looks like it looks like
just a big fucking sheep.
It looks like a sheep that's halfway between a sheep and a horse. You know what I mean? Like there is going to be a point though where if somebody's doing this, they're going to go, you're selectively breeding and you're genetically modifying the sheep, and they'll be like, no, I'm not. And then you're going to look over and it's going to be like the size of a cow. You know what I mean? And you're going to be like, you're lying.
Yeah, like
nature didn't do this.
Yeah, like again, it's just like one of those things because you don't know what it would do to nature. Because like I said, if this became not quite the word I'm looking for, but let's say a native or indigenous species over the course of a generation or two to this area in Montana, what's that going to do to the local wildlife population, right? Because
The
this
best way
thing,
for
and then it
the
starts
listeners,
crossbreeding.
yeah, and for the listeners here, the size, if you want a picture in your head, the pictures of what he was crossbreeding and what he was doing is picture a donkey. He made a sheep the size of a donkey, which is already massive. It's like twice the size it should be.
Yeah, like this thing looks like the sheep you'd see in like Skyrim. It's fucking legitimately
It's
huge.
on the same steroid regimen as The Rock.
Yeah, it's fucking huge. I mean, again, and it's for trophy hunting. You don't even know if these things are good eating. I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. That's what's even more bullshit. Like if the argument was, hey, this is going to help, we're going to breed these because in this, maybe not in the States or wherever, but it's like some country that's developing, if we do this, they can survive off of less food, but also produce more meat, more milk, and more wool for people.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, okay, I understand this is going to help developing nations or something. Nope. Why? Because I want to cut its head off.
And weirdly enough, this made me think of when I reviewed Dead Rising a few weeks ago. Again, you're wondering what's the fucking connection, but in that game, it's revealed that the virus, the zombie outbreak in Willamette, is created by them. They were experimenting on cows, so they produced more meat. And a byproduct is zombies for some reason.
Basically mad cow disease, but very mad cow.
Yeah, exactly. Where they eat your face. So yeah, I mean, obviously, only responsible science should be doing this. And I know that's two words that don't often go together in today's work. Considering we just talked about privacy invasions literally 5 minutes ago.
And what you have to consider here is you're not just randomly going to be, if things naturally or accidentally happen, a couple things bred on your farm and it happened and you got this giant one, they're not coming after you. They had to prove that this guy was actively doing this for a longer period of time. That was the goal.
Yeah, like,
you know what I mean?
Because
like accidental or breeding that happens just in nature because it happened. You can't stop that. You can't punish somebody for that. You have to prove that they had intent.
Yeah, and this guy clearly had it. So have fun in the clink for 6 months. And we're moving on to our next story. And this one is in the shake my head category. So SMH. This comes courtesy of pressprogress.ca. The Pentagon and NORAD respond to Danielle Smith. If those of you who are not familiar, she is the current premier of the province of Alberta up here in Canada.
Basically like the governor for our American listeners.
Yeah, so she's like, nope, we are not spraying chemicals over Alberta. The U.S. Department of Defense, NORAD, denied Danielle Smith's suggestion that they are responsible for chemtrails over Alberta. The Pentagon and NORAD are responding to a recent suggestion from the Premier of Alberta that the U.S. Department of Defense could be responsible for alleged reports of chemtrails over Edmonton, Alberta. At a recent town hall, the Alberta Premier, Danielle Smith, fielded questions from one attendee who wanted an explanation about lines they've been looking at in the sky. According to local journalist Katie Teeling, the attendee specifically asked Smith for an explanation about, quote, chemtrails over Edmonton. Commercial aircraft frequently produce visible vapor trails in the sky when emissions from planes come into contact with humid air. Online conspiracy theorists have latched on to this phenomenon to suggest they are spraying chemicals to control or reduce populations. As BBC News points out, other variations of the conspiracy claim that the chemtrails are being, quote, used to spread COVID-19, distribute vaccines, and initiate mind control, reduce the population, or vaguely promote a, quote, new world order. Video of Smith's response was later posted to social media on an account called Disordered YYC, showing Smith told the attendee she had looked into the matter previously and had been told that the Pentagon could possibly be responsible. Quote, the best I have been able to do is talk to the woman who is responsible for controlling the airspace, and she says no one is allowed to go up and spray anything in the air, Smith said. The other person told me that if anyone is doing it, it is the U.S. Department of Defense. I have some limitations in what I can do in my job. I don't know if I would have much power if that's the case, if the U.S. Department or if of Defense is spraying us. No, sir, a spokesperson for the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin told Press Progress the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, is a binational organization responsible for defending the airspace of Canada and the United States. It also confirmed no aircraft under its command are spraying chemicals on Alberta. Quote, NORAD and U.S. Northern Command are not conducting any flight activities in Canada that involve spraying of chemicals, a NORAD spokesperson told Press Progress. A Premier's office spokesperson responded to the Pentagon and NORAD's denials about their involvement in chemtrails by suggesting the Premier was passing along secondhand information. The Premier was simply stating what she had learned from some folks over the summer on this issue. Premier office spokesperson Savannah Johansson told Press Progress she's not saying she believed the U.S. government was using chemtrails in Alberta. Johansson added Smith has, quote, heard concerns from many Albertans about this topic and asked the provincial government to investigate further, but, quote, no evidence was found of chemtrails.
She's a complete moron.
Oh, yeah. And, like...
For those that don't know, the Alberta government elected a pretty conservative, the most Christian right of the parties that are currently in power in Canada. Very much love oil, love fossil fuels, hate social services sort of party. And we're not going to get too deep into it with her. It's just that she's come across as a dullard in almost everything she says and talks.
Well,
like she has the cadence and speech of somebody who sounds like a hillbilly. And it's like it's unacceptable to make random claims like that. You can cause an international incident by blaming a foreign government for things.
Well, to me, there are several issues with this, and where do I start with this? First off, you're spreading potential misinformation. Like you said, international incidents are started by people saying crap like this. If you have any sort of responsible government, yes, you're supposed to take questions from your constituents. But this is like someone in the States, and I'm just going to use this example. She's a representative from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Wonderful example of this person. Heavy sarcasm here. Who blames California wildfires on, quote, Jewish space lasers. And that's officially in the record, by the way. I'd like to point this out. This is about as ludicrous as saying stuff like that out loud. If you're going to be in government representing millions of people in representing major industry, you don't entertain questions like this. And the only time that I can think of, let me rephrase that. The most ridiculous example I heard recently of misinformation and someone having a major news story make it into a politician's mouth that was later proven to be false on multiple fronts was the incident in Springfield, Ohio, with they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. That's been debunked several times. And when they did find a guy shooting geese, it was a white guy riding around in a golf cart shooting geese at a golf course. I don't mean to laugh at that, but it's so ridiculous. And then even the viral picture that showed a gentleman who was differently colored with two geese in his hand, that was a picture from several months ago of him taking roadkill off the road because you don't want to leave that on the road. That's kind of gross. But when it comes to the Alberta stuff and you're saying, well, I heard from a friend, well, no, you didn't. Because if you did, you're a government official. You mentioned what organization you heard it from. You can directly quote them and say, for example, if I was this woman, I'd be like, well, I don't have any direct information about that. If you want to follow up more information, please contact the Alberta Department of, I don't know, flight control or something. I'm just making that
or whatever, environment,
Yeah.
That's
why would she know if it wasn't the Canadian government?
Or just say, what are we seeing that? Just say, as far as my understanding, it's a natural occurrence. If not, we can defer to this and look at it at a later time. And if the follow-up question to that from them was, see, we don't entertain conspiracy theories that aren't based in fact.
Yeah.
That's all you have to say. But no, and it sounds bad. Have you seen, she even holds a mic like a dumb person. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to back down from the fact that they elected somebody who presents themselves as a dullard.
Yeah, like for me, it's responsible government to present the facts as you understand them. Is there room for conversation? Absolutely. You should be able to ask any questions you want, but in that spirit, ask a stupid question, expect a stupid answer.
And also, just regardless of what personal feelings on how she appears to present herself to public and how the party presents itself, you have to know you can't be implicating other governments and things on a whim at a press conference when you're the leader of, I believe it's the fourth biggest economy in Canada.
Yeah, like it's not responsible government. And whether you're conservative, liberal, undecided, or whatever, I think we can all agree you want the facts.
If you're a conservative, a fiscal conservative, don't implicate your largest trading partner in something stupid like this.
Yeah, like it's so dumb. And again, I know in the game of politics, I mean, I've been involved in municipal, federal, and provincial for a couple of years now. You have to play to your base, and I understand that. And believe me, that's gotten me into more frustrated conversations over the last 2 months than I care to fucking deal with.
Sorry, everybody, but is what she's saying is, in her own actions, is that her base are dullards? Is that how she wants to represent her base?
See, that's what I often wonder because, like, and again, I'm not meaning to paint everyone with the same.
No, absolutely.
Brush
I'm not calling everybody that votes for the dollars. I'm saying, if you want to say that the elected official is representative of the people that elected them, she's presenting herself in such a way that makes you think that her voters are stupid.
Yeah, like you see a lot of this happen in the US race right now, where they tend to say certain things that'll play to a certain segment of the voting block. And it's not good optics. I mean, let's be real here.
No.
It's like, just lady, of all the questions you could have taken at this town hall, you chose to dignify this with this response.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should have dismissed this person out of hand, but you could have been like, I'll let you know when we find Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's just, or even if you don't want to make fun, you don't want to talk down to somebody. The person probably had a genuine concern. Obviously, if they brought it up, you say, I don't have the answers for that directly, but it's a standard. That's a scientific question that I'm not able to answer personally. If you would like to present it, we will, like you said, we will present that up the chain. We'll talk to somebody within the department that can speak on that in a definitive stance.
Yeah, exactly.
You answer it with a non-answer, but in an answer that will say, I will get you your answers because it's my job to get you your answers.
Yeah, exactly. She could have said ultimately to do the same thing. Like, look, I will have a member of my staff reach out to an expert, and I'll have an answer for you. Please hang around till after the press conference. Let me get your information. This way, you look like a responsible person in government. You look like you're answering the constituents' question, and you look like you're a responsible leader. Not saying, well, I heard it from my uncle Jim Bob that this is happening.
You're an elected official. Think before you speak.
Exactly. And that's how you should always approach anything when you talk to the media, when you speak to when you have any platform, you have a responsibility. That's why we on this show, we tend to steer away from politics unless they get really fucking dumb, or we can have some fun with it.
And obviously, people are going to be like, well, your opinion, we're all going to have our opinions. It also means that you have to take somebody's opinion with a grain of salt. Do not take what we say as the definitive be all true all of everything. Do not go, well, they said that, so that's they're sanctifying it, and that means that anybody that agrees with them should be sued, it's slander for saying you can have an opinion. You're allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion is that she is a dullard.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't have objective truths to that. I say you come across as a dullard to me, and you should not be speaking on things you do not know.
Exactly. You should not be speaking for the entirety of the province by making them look bad in the eyes of the world stage.
And I shouldn't be talking down to audience people that might be fans of or in the political party or vote for them, but because I don't want to sound rude. So I'll just explain to them what a dullard means. A dullard is, I'm not going to talk down to the dullards by explaining what a dullard is. That's mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Long story short, don't be a dummy. Please speak responsibly.
Yes. You don't have a podcast for fun like we do where you can sort of say what you want. you have a platform where you have real ramifications, and you will be looked upon as a stupid person for saying things like this.
Yeah, like, for example, just like, I'm sure I've said some stuff on this podcast that's not particularly popular, but I also understand I have a standing within the community, and it's pretty clear from online Mike gives a shit about the people that he lives with. But I also understand I believe in ghosts, I believe in aliens. Do I believe certain things that are questionable? Yes, but that is not a belief I'm going to go to Guelph City Council and say, hey, you know what? Does the ghost of Al Capone haunt the Albion? I need an answer to this.
You're not the premier of fucking Theophany land either, where you're just like, hey, guess what? There's like $7 trillion. No, that's too much for Canada. Hey, I'm making statements that could affect a $50 billion industry, and I'm talking about chemtrails and ghosts and crying and about fires that I could have prevented, but I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
It all comes down to being responsible to the people that elected you, but not just that. You have to be responsible to the people who didn't elect you either. You are there to represent everybody. Whether everybody voted for you or not is not important. It's the fact that you speak with the best interest of everybody.
I'd say this T-minus, a week or two till we hear something incredibly stupid from another politician and we can forget about this, I guess.
Oh, you say a week or two? I'm saying an hour or two.
Well,
that's how literally fast it changes.
As I'm already getting popcorn and having a watch party ready for whenever the American election happens, because I'm interested to see what happens regardless. I won't give my opinion on it until after the fact, because I'm looking at this going, whatever happens down there is going to affect what happens to our imminent elections up here. Things go one way down there, they might go the opposite way up here, or they might go the exact same way. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's just say November 5th is a day I'm probably not going to be on social media till after the election's called.
Am I wrong? Is it remember the 5th of November, or is it another day for
no, it is. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason plot should not be forgot, or something like that.
Not necessarily the best day to run your election in the States.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking A to that. All right, guys, so we are done here on This Week in Geek. We got one last review from Alex, and then we're going to tell you what is coming up over the next little bit here on the site. So without any further ado, this is Alex's last review right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We'll be back with the closing of the show right after.
Oh boy, it has been a while since I've tangled with RPG Maker. And no pun intended, this is RPG Maker with. A review code was provided by NISAmerica or NISA. And I can go a little bit into my history with RPG Maker. And it's tangled. It's also from an era that a lot of people don't realize. I was somebody who, in the burgeoning era of high-speed internet in the late 90s, and the I guess, murky areas of fan translations at the time, I remember checking out RPG Maker. Was it RPG Maker 2000, or maybe the one before that, the PC one? And it was like, at the time, you found them on like message boards, and like Russians would take it and translate it into English and Russian from Japanese, and we were making underground, dubiously, when it comes to legality terms, RPGs. These were like middle schoolers like myself messing with it, middle school into like grade 9. Not even that, it was like grade 6 to grade 9. We're messing around with RPG Maker, making our own stuff, and we were like, this is the coolest thing ever. We don't even have to know how to program. Little did we know that even with those dubiously translated semi-pirated releases, we were actually learning basic scripting, basic logic. And if I could go back and find some of those RPGs that I made back then, I would probably laugh at them, but at the same time I would probably try to release them to the public for people to watch and check out and ridicule me on. And we've covered a few things here and there with RPG Maker in the past, and this release, though, it's been quite some time since we covered one with RPG Maker with. We have the Nintendo Switch version actually for review. It is also available on PS4 and PS5, I should mention. This is a pretty significant step up to what I remember using, in that you have your tile sets, you have your scripted language, you can put everything in together. You have the ability to use, on the Switch at least, touch controls to move things around, which makes all the difference. Sure, using a console is cool, but the one advantage of RPG Maker in the original releases from back in the day with the OGs was being on a PC, you could use a mouse, place things anywhere, do all that. Well, you have a little more freedom when you're using the interface on the Switch for that, and I can confirm. I went in and I went, okay, well, do I just have to start with creating everything from scratch and placing things as they go, tile set creators, blah blah blah, all that stuff, making your own little game? I made a couple little things. Maybe I'll end up sharing them eventually if I feel confident enough. And I went, is there anything for us to check out? Well, you have the ability to share with other players. Now, as of when I was recording this, I was playing an early release copy, so there wasn't like the marketplace up for people to really go with yet. But if you go into the Maker Plaza, as they call it, there were a couple of tutorial ones. You can go and download a game that it's a game that you interact with that tells you how to make the games, which is actually key, and I think a lot of people should do that. Now, beyond that, there was another one that is sort of a sample, just to give you a starting point for it, and you can start them and edit them and change them and then reshare them. As far as key terms go that you're going to want to know, events in the game are the events that trigger when you do things like walking over to something, pressing the action button, that sort of stuff. It's when something triggers. If you're wondering what they say in the game, if you're looking at it, you're like, what's RPG Maker? What's an asset? Well, that is things like maps, items, events, and other elements that are in the game once you've created it. Actors are what they call their playable characters, their PC characters, their party characters in the game that you're actively controlling. Now, they have what they call their database in there, and that's pretty much straightforward, exactly as you'd expect, which is the compilation of all the characters, maps, and events. You have your map editor, which is the standard, you can have different scenes based on the map. So you have an overworld map, you'll have inside town maps, and you have a different thing for each one. There are tile palettes, which is the sets of tiles that you use as traditional 8-bit, 16-bit RPGs and makers use that. So you'll have like a grass tile, and you place them all around the map to have grass, and you can actually change the physics where it's like, I can walk on grass, or I can't walk on grass. I can only walk on roads. I can't walk on water, that sort of stuff. So you place that and foliage around, and then you can place things like houses and towns and characters and interactable objects. And then encounters refer to the enemies that you'll encounter when you fight, and you can change the encounter rate. You can for each individual character that you find, you can change on the maps where you would encounter certain enemies and whatnot, and you can have ones that are triggered when you like try to open a box or a chest or talk to a character, all that fun stuff. It's everything I remember from 25 years ago, but in the Switch, in my hands, and I'm pretty happy with it. I might be addicted, maybe, just a little bit. If you've got somebody in your family, especially a young one, who is interested in making games. We talked about this before with the Garage game, the Garage creator from Nintendo, as well as there's been a few others that have come out. It can be daunting to want to learn programming, but if you've got a younger one that wants to learn, as long as they can read and you can teach them the logic, you work with them, this could be a great start to get into, the logic of creating a game without it being too daunting or scary. And you can, create and share amongst other people and, look at this and go, hey, if this is where you want to go, maybe then you can learn, to do something else. Because just because you don't know how to code and just because you don't have the math skills behind it doesn't mean you can't tell a compelling story. And that's what RPG Maker With is all about.
Freddy Krueger here, and you're listening to Mike the Birdman and the rest of the crew this week in Geek.net.
Hey guys, welcome back to This Week in Geek.net. Big thanks to everybody who stuck with us through this yet another adventure through the podcast rabbit hole that has been chemtrails, giant sheep, Meta is going to steal your face, and CGI babies. it's been the adventure. Plus, we took a trip to Cybertron, and it was a good time had by all. So, recording this week, me and Alex and Aaron, we're going to be recording some stuff for Future Imperfect. We're going to be doing some stuff on the Twilight Zone, kind of to sync up some spooky stuff. So we got that in Night Gallery that'll be coming up on our Future Imperfects over the next little bit, and Loose Cannon. More Twilight Zone's more of a Future Imperfect thing, whereas Night Gallery is more of a Loose Cannon sort of thing. I'm also recording a couple of shows with David Denoyer from Do You Even Movie. We're going to be talking about the Halloween franchise. You might see that this week, depending on when Alex releases it, but I'm recording it on Tuesday evening. We're going to be talking about Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, and I've got thoughts. Me and Ken and David are going to be talking about the Dead Rising duology of movies that came out in the last couple of years. Movies that I promise you, if there were 10 listeners of this podcast, 2 of you may have heard of this because it was so not advertised, and Rob Riggle as Frank West, don't know how I feel about that. So we'll have some thoughts about that on Loose Cannon for that. And then finally, me, Enrique, and James Rolfe will be getting together to record the annual Halloween show on remakes of horror movie franchises that actually work. So we'll be recording that closer to the end of the month, and that'll be out on Halloween or the day before on Devil's Night. And I have been talking with Dave. We are going to do a follow-up. It may be one of our quote-unquote evergreen episodes, which means it'll come out whenever we need content. We're going to look at the 2024 reboot of The Crow, because Dave's got thoughts, and that'll be really interesting to hear what his perspective is on that. In terms of reviews I'm currently working on, I am gonna be releasing the Castlevania Dominus collection sometime in the next week or so. I'm gonna have a review of the newest Jackbox title, the Naughty Pack. I'm not playing this with my family over Thanksgiving because Jesus, that's a conversation I don't want to have.
If you're the kind of person that plays this with your immediate family, and you have a if you have a full family you're playing this with, you might be somebody who ends up on like a TLC reality show.
Yeah, I was going to say, you are ending up on a watch list. We're also going to be taking a look at EA Sports NHL 25. I'm actually going to be talking with my friend Jordan that I work with at the Guelph Storm Trackers to get a real hockey fan's perspective and how it breaks down. And hopefully we'll have some other news from the world of Chell in the next little bit. I've also also have Until Dawn, which is the latest remaster done from Sony. I just got my code for that the other day. Until Dawn was one of my favorite PlayStation 4 titles that came out way back in the day. I also have some stuff from our friends over at Renegade Game Studios. I've got some G.I. Joe books. I got some stuff from Free League where I'll be returning to the lands of Middle Earth, talking about those, and maybe some My Little Pony stuff as well. Also, just before I go, anybody who sent me anything off my Amazon wish list, I gotta send a huge thank you to. My friend John sent me a stuffed Magikarp, who I've conveniently just named Carp. I'm gonna find a way to mount them to my wheelchair because I'm a weirdo. One of our friends overseas sent me the complete series of Beetlejuice, which is fucking awesome. Yeah, I am so thrilled because I know Alison Court and she lives local here in Ontario. So I'm tempted to ask her, hey, can I send this to you and get this signed by Lydia Dietz? And then one of our old friends who used to work on the show, AJ the St. Bernard, sent me one of my favorite shows as a teenager because I am that dumb, stupid, child-minded individual. He got me the complete series of Duckman. I still quote that series to this very day.
I'm pretty sure some of our interstitial clips have parts of that in there. There's more that we just haven't tapped into for a long time because it's about time we probably make some new interstitials.
I was about to say, yeah, probably when Christmas comes around, when I'm, not playing not playing Baldur's Gate for the 50th time, I'm gonna remake a lot of our stuff. One of my favorite quotes out of that, it's the way Jason Alexander as Duckman is like, "What the hell are you staring at?" It's just the way he does it.
Yeah, we use that, I think, in our stuff. But there's plenty in there that was ahead of it. As a kid, you didn't get if you watched it.
Oh yeah, like it's such a fun show and the price was so good. And then my sister, and this is kind of a funny story. So Blair handed me an Amazon package and she just assumed it was cables or like, hey Mike, something's broken here, put these cables somewhere. And she hands me a package and it's the Sonic Origins collection with like Amy for the Switch, and I've been looking at this game for years. So it turns out it's from my sister Kara, and we're on the phone, and I can hear Kara in the other room yelling at Blair, "You gave him his birthday present? What the fuck?" And I'm like, in my defense, I thought it was cables. So that was a lot of fun. So thank you to everybody who sent me stuff from my Amazon wish list. It is awesome. It's going to be awesome turning 43 as I inch inevitably closer towards the March of the Grave, but you know what? It's going to be fun, and I've got a stuffed Magikarp to lead the way. I feel pretty good. So anyway, Alex, anything coming up from you that we should be telling people about?
I have a bunch of indie games to review, some on PC, some on console RPGs. I have a pinball game, like a digital pinball game. Looks fun that I'm checking out. As far as programming for the show this week, we have the loose cannon that you recorded on Japanese horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe you watched House, right?
Yeah, House, the weird Japanese movie that you don't watch, you experience.
Then we also have a brand new Earth vs. Soup called The Neanderthal Man. And I haven't picked it out yet, but we'll have probably this coming Saturday another one of the classic episodes. I got to go through and find more of the Rolf Halloween episodes. We've had 2 of them come out so far. We had the the Universal Horror that you did with him years ago, as well as the Aliens talk. I know there's more. I have to dig through and listen and figure out which one's which, and we'll have something come out on Saturday. And beyond that, probably have another review show this week. I'm just not sure when, because we've got a plenty as we try to make sure we get things out in time before some of the big heavy hitter releases come out that we have to, sort of stop everything to do together. Like this is the month of COD, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very busy month. I should get a copy of Mech Warrior Clans. I'm working on getting the Silent Hill 2 remake. It's going to be busy, guys. Broketober is going to hit us hard in about 7 days.
Yeah. And I've got movies that have come in. A really cool collection, a 4K release from what's the company called? 88 Films and Fortune Star, of the Jackie Chan movies Project A and Project A2 in a box set, like completely remastered. It's like I haven't seen those in like over 20 years. So I've got some of that to look forward to. There's some other, I think, some spooky movie stuff coming, and we'll see where it all ends up. I also have some Kensington products, as we didn't do like a back to the school thing. They didn't have as much this year, but they sent over some laptop sleeves and things to look at, just some random stuff, and a rechargeable mouse. So I'll be taking a look at that over the next week or so as well.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I also have a brand new mouse I've been using from Razer, which is the Cobra Pro, and our friends over at Ninja sent so many boxes, it's as tall as Blair. So I've got a lot of stuff.
You've got those, and I have some PDP and Turtle Beach accessories to look at. I've been using a headset right now. Takes about a week or so, for me to really burn them in and test them and make sure that they're up to snuff. But the one headset I'm using boasts an 80-hour battery.
Ooh, good stuff. All right, guys. So like I said, we got a lot of great stuff coming up. I'm having a lot of fun doing the spooky content for you guys. So stay tuned for all that. So we're going to wrap things up here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. So for TWIG, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys the week after next, but don't forget Canadian Thanksgiving review show. So Alex will wish you a happy Turkey Day. And I should have a story out on Weekly Spooky. I'll post it on socials. We'll hook it up. We'll catch you guys next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember, lower your shields
and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.